Library Joint Powers Authority Board, Library Facilities Financing Authority, joint study session for October 22nd, 2015. May I have a roll call, please?
I'm going to do the roll call for the Library Joint Powers Board first and then LFA members second.
Thank you, Heather.
Supervisor Friend.
Here.
Supervisor McPherson.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews. Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Termini.
Here.
Councilmember Terrazas. Citizen Campbell.
Here.
Citizen Dexter.
Here.
Citizen Mosier. Director Ando.
Here.
Director Bernal.
Here.
Director Goldstein. Director Palacios, and alternate for Director Moriello.
Here. Thank you, Heather. Before we approve the agenda, a small correction. The next meeting of the LFFA is Monday, November 9th, not Thursday, November 9th, as listed. All the information is correct. Are you okay in there, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Traffic go by.
No problem. A motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Your second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? We'll now receive polling results from, I'm awfully sorry, I almost missed oral communication. Is there any member of the public who would like to address this joint body regarding anything that's not on today's agenda? Jim,
Nobody from San Jose.
do you have anyone there?
Nobody here.
Very good. We'll now receive the polling results from Gene Bregman. Gene, it's your show.
Thank you. Nice to be back. It is very kindly offered to change the PowerPoint slides that are up there for the audience so you all can see.
You're trying to forgive me. Steve, could you get as close to the phone as possible? There's a bit of an echo.
Why don't you bring this, oh, there, Gene. No, pin it on his lapel.
All right. Is that better, Jim?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So what we're going to do is go over the results of the highlights of the survey, which we just took last week. A week ago, and we did 406 community interviews with people who are likely to vote in the June 2016 election. Where appropriate, there's a couple of charts where we will compare to previous results, previous surveys. So the first question in the survey was an overall job rating for Santa Cruz libraries. People rated it as excellent, good, only fair, or poor. And as has been the case over the last couple of years of surveys that we've been doing, the excellent good rating is very high, 77%. And for the rest, it's mostly people who have no opinion. We only have 7% is only fair, 1% is poor, and 15% is no opinion. Pretty consistent over these last couple of years with a slight variation, but nothing terribly important. The most interesting thing is the people who are more likely to give the libraries a positive rating are people who use the libraries or the library's website, Democrats and independents. People who are less likely are Republicans, and people who don't use the libraries or websites, not that they have negative opinions, they have more often don't know, no opinion. So it's not like there's a vast segment of the population that doesn't like it. It's either they're positive or they don't know. Second question. One of the first measurements of likelihood of people to support some sort of measure that involves taxation is how much need is there for the libraries for more money. And the choices are great need, some need, little need, or no real need. At the current survey, which is that lower right-hand corner pie, the great need at 32, some need at 37. It's been fairly consistent with the last poll done last December, a little bit lower than the ones that were done a little more than a year ago. This is important when you look at it. The great need and some need combined is 69%. That's right about equal to the level that we're going to need when we go put something on the ballot. We need 2/3 to 67%. And again, the same sort of groups were more likely to say that there was need as gave the libraries a good positive rating. Again, people who don't use libraries more often saying they don't know how much need there is. The next question was, using the same scale, how much need is there for money to repair, maintain, and modernize local library facilities? And again, we're right about at that number we're going to need to pass something at 68%, very similar to 67, slightly below what it was a while back. 68%, great need though at 29, and some need at 39. Again, the same sort of groups as we've seen the previous two charts. We're differing on this one as well. So we're, before we get to our votes, we're right sort of at the borderline of where we're going to need to be. Now, this chart, these 4 sets of bars show the 4 first votes that people gave on a ballot measure. The first were read a paragraph similar to what they might see on the actual ballot, but there was no tax mentioned. They said there would be a tax, but it would be delineated, and they could look up the specifics in the voter pamphlet, because it's what's being considered now are one tax level for homeowners, it's slightly different for commercial, maybe different for agriculture. So there's a good reason to do that. We've done this in the past in various places. But the vote was just 63% yes. We then followed that and saying, how about if the tax were $59 per year as a parcel tax? And we almost the same at 62. When we go to $54 for the tax rate, we're at 63. We only get up to even just barely hitting our level that we need at 68% level when we get the $49 tax rate. Lots of interesting groups that were differentiated on this, besides the ones the library users are more supportive than those who are not. Renters, Democrats, independents, women under the age of 50, particularly strong supporters all the way through on these votes. Residents of the city of Santa Cruz and Live Oak and sort of general other unincorporated, more supportive than the Scotts Valley and Felton Bend Lomond areas. That's also pretty consistent with the other studies we've done. When we get to the actual mention of the tax rate, those 3 lessons on the first one, there's also a difference between the most frequent voters and the less frequent voters. The most frequent voters are less supportive. So if we were to consider going for an even lower turn election, the chances of tax exemption would be less. On the other hand, we might decide, I thought about going for a higher turnout election, then the chances for success would be higher. Chart 4B actually compares, we've now asked in various forms these 3 tax rates of 59, 54, and 49 in the 3 different polls that we did. In April of 2014, it was 65% and 69% at $49, 59 to 49. In December of last year was 60 and 65. This year we recovered a little bit to 62 and 68. The one thing that's consistent with all of them is we never get to our 2/3 that we need until we get to a tax rate that's under $50. And then we did ask for votes later after we gave people reasons for and against supporting the measure, which I'll get to in a minute, but I wanted to look and see how those affect people, and not a huge effect. The $59 tax rate goes up to 65% from the 62. The 54 stays at the same 65. The $49 tax rate picks up 1 point to 69%. So it's not a huge impact by the arguments in favor and opposed, either because they're both effective or effective enough anyway at this level. If we were talking about 50% elections, you might see something different. And again, these are the same voter groups that were more or less supportive of the early ones, were also more or less supportive of these votes. Then among the question I was talking about with more information, first, much of it first was that it was rotated. Half the people heard the arguments against first, and the other half heard the arguments in favor first. But the first chart is on the arguments against, and there were half a dozen of them, and we asked, does each one of these make you much more likely, somewhat more likely to oppose the measure, or does it make no difference to you one way or the other? And none of them are overwhelmingly negative unto themselves. The much less likely ranges from 16 to 22%. The combined 41 and 39 is a little bit higher than 36, 35, 32. So there is some impact, but not enormously so. The highest of the combined is some of the money will not be used for existing libraries, but to help construct a new middle school annex in Livo that will include library services. Along with, it was just a few years ago that we gave the libraries a permanent 4% sales tax. They should not be asking taxpayers for any more money. So really, if you think of those as the two most effective, the Livo one is really no more effective than the strongest anti-tax measure at the same time. Again, all or most of these were thought of and rated more highly by the people who don't use the libraries, people in Scotts Valley area. Let's see, specifically, a couple of them excited that needs to be talked about, particularly here. Something that's interesting if and when we get to the campaign to talk about a couple of them. Republicans were more strongly reactive to it. I mean, not enough facts. And then item 7A is the first group of the positive statements. These are the 8 top reasons for people to favor the measure, and these were all in that first top margin of error, which was 5%, between 47 and 52%, saying much more like it. So that the influence of each of these is much stronger, as you would expect. Even when we're not doing so well in the vote, we're still getting 62, 63%. So you would expect this to be higher than the negatives. Where we saw the money is needed to fix the roofs. It's important to keep libraries open to provide a safe place for our kids, upgrade electrical systems, upgrade computer technology, all this, and it goes on from there without going into the specifics. Library users, particularly, and women under the age of 50, reacted just all of these more positively than others. Republicans, of course, were less positive than Democrats and Independents, all of these. Item J, measure allow libraries to maintain increased programs for young children, like story time and expanded children's book collections, was more important to people who are on their cell phones. And we do a lot of those 18 to 49-year-olds and the less frequent voters, which is correlates to all 3 of those correlate together. That is the same groups of people. And then the last chart is the remaining items that were in the favorable statements. And the first 3 are pretty close to that first group up in the 40s. Seniors, particularly who rely on libraries. Boilers are out of date. Measure provide funds to replace the 2 branches of Capitola and Felton. Capitola and Felton. And a little lower for the measure, with this measure, libraries will be able to provide more places for community events and gatherings, but not a negative. The measure will allow libraries to have additional space to expand their collections. It's not a negative, but not all that strong. And then the other one was some of the money we use to provide library services and another educational facility down to 30%. I think the sum of the library was only about 20, so this wasn't a terribly effective argument. I'm not sure it's enough to kill the thing, but it's not terribly effective either. So, where are we? Unfortunately, we're kind of where we have been.
James, before you go on, Jim, can you hear me? Jim?
Yeah, I've got most of that.
Yeah, you're getting close to having to leave at 1:30. Do you have any questions for Gene before you sign off?
No, the numbers that he sent in the presentation look pretty straightforward as in the presentation.
Thank you, Jim. Carry on.
Thanks.
So, I mean, we're pretty much where we have been. Nothing much has changed. Anything over a $50 tax rate for homeowners is problematic at best. Even if you're at the upper 40s, it's not going to be easy by any means. You're probably right on the borderline at just 68, 69%, and you've already asked people. I mean, when we ask the question is a $59 tax? They don't say yes, then we go down to 54, and if we still haven't said yes, it goes down to 49. So there are a certain number of people who will say yes to the interview, just give them a shot. How much for the, all right, when you get down to 12, let me know. So this is maybe slightly inflated on that. So we're at best right on the border, at that high 40s. But I think anything else is problematic at best. I know that talking with Tim Super at NDS, who's a financial guy, they said, when I asked him about is there any way to make sure we get into this to get more in terms of millions of dollars money. Well, yeah, you tell him what the way you need the tax to be, and he can play with the other amounts and see what that means as far as different tax rates for commercial and industrial, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think if it was up to me, I'd like to see the thing down mid-40s. At best, at highest. A shot at it probably at 48, 49, but certainly no slam dunk. And it's going to be tough. The other thing is that if you were going to push it off to November, the larger turnout would probably help. But it doesn't help Capitola very much. In case you lose, and Capitola's in big trouble. And so that is something that we all have to take into consideration. Because
We're no stranger to trouble. So. I'm going to go along the line for questions for you, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Jamie is anxious. Go for it. Start.
So what I heard you say was that you'd be more comfortable recommending a figure in the mid-40s? Does mid-40s include 46, or does mid-40s more like 43?
Well, when I was 46,
You were definitely in your mid-40s.
I was about mid-40s, yeah. It's only a year or two ago.
Yeah. So does 46 qualify as your mid-40s?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay. And a follow-up question, do we have a decent number at this point for what 46 would yield, given our current assessment rates? And I guess I'm directing that we're the same standard is the answer at this point. Marcus just doesn't have those numbers yet. Okay. But presumably we're talking about a total yield of 46 or something on the order of, Mark. Ballpark guess is good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Unless Tim,
What's the matter?
yeah. And we don't know what that means to the others, or what that would be politically to other entities, other parts of the community, how they would react.
Nicole had talked to Marcus, I believe, about the yield.
So I talked to Marcus a little bit about the yields, trying to get a sense of where $49 would land us. And originally, based on older models, it was somewhere in the $60 million range. But because we've been adjusting the model to change how we're treating commercial and ag, most recently he was looking at like $55 million yield for a $49 single family rate. But we're probably going to have to increase the reserve because of how we're treating commercial and ag. So he's thinking it's going to be below 55 for even the 49. So if you're talking about low 40s, you're going to be getting pretty low. You're
So
probably
my 46 estimate to a $50 million yield is within, consistent with what you've heard.
and I would say it's probably below $50 million yield.
Probably, thank you.
Yeah.
Martha.
I don't have any questions, any more questions. Yes.
Steve?
Pretty depressing, so
Good? Cynthia, I know you have questions. Or you haven't formulated them yet? Want to go together?
What's that book or movie about magical thinking?
I think you are the poster child for that.
It's not really questions, mulling over.
Okay, Carlos?
I just want to be clear about the margin of error and the question particularly about the level of the assessment.
Right, the margin of error ranges from plus or minus 2.9 to 4.9 depending on the response level threshold. Supposedly you get to 50% of the response level, the higher margin of error. Nicole Duke sent me an email. So looking at the 68% that we get for the highest vote, that number is 4.5%.
That's her magical thinking.
That is magical. Zach, any questions?
I guess I have a brief question, a brief comment. I guess the comment focuses on, with education, the numbers did tick up, which was good, because even when you had the negative components, that actually did not depress the numbers, which I thought was good. Your job is to be as conservative as possible in recommending something that will actually pass, and I respect that. But I think that realistically, a number in the mid-40s isn't something that's going to pass the rest of either the needs test or probably the community desires test. I think there's a couple things that for me are clear. I think we have to go forward with something, because I think that the libraries are too important for the voters to not have a say in the level of service and the types of libraries they have in their community. But I also believe that you don't get a lot of opportunities to ask the voters for that level of investment. And I'd be cautious against doing something so low with the expectation that that sort of solves something when it really doesn't, and then being unable to go back. So I really want to press you on how soft or hard those numbers were, because I was actually, to be honest with you, surprised at how little drop-off there was between $49 and $59.
Yeah.
Respecting the fact that the margin is what it is, and it's a plus minus, it's not just a minus, right?
Right.
But because there is an understanding that with political unanimity, on $1 amount versus another, there's sort of this X factor that's right, but you wouldn't have it in a mid-40s where you would in a high 50s. So that's just something to state. And so I wanted to see on a 65 number how often you've seen historically with the unified front that number can actually move, recognizing that you're dealing with a very thin, tight election number. Or not. That's kind of the primary question. First is a statement about the reality of the political component. The second is more of a question of how you've seen it move or not.
Okay. Certainly, if you have a good campaign, things move well. And I've seen things in the mid-60s that ended up winning. Not as often when you have something that's a 62 or 63. That's a long way to go. Because you're at 2/3. If you were at 45 and you could get to 50, I'd be more optimistic. But at 62 to 67, you've got a number of people who are ingrained as they're going to oppose any sort of tax thing. And to win them over is, there's some who you will never win over. The problem, I think, with this becomes how much of an opposition is going to exist. If there's not going to be a huge groundswell of opposition, organized or otherwise, then you probably can, it would be worth the risk to push it as much as you can. To a point. I mean, I still wouldn't go. We've done 3 studies where over the past year and a half, where we had the same tax rates, and every time we get essentially the same answer. Right. It's not just one study where the margin of error is 5%. It's 3 of them. And we're always down to 62, 63, and we're never above 68, 69, or 49. So I think you can make an argument from a lot of things you were saying to go for something in between those that might be worth doing, assuming that you have the resources to raise a lot of money, or at least adequate enough money to do a really good campaign. But without that, I'd be less than optimistic.
I appreciate that. I do think there's a difference between an organized opposition and a lack of excitement about something to vote for, though, right?
That's two different things.
I recognize that, and we're not measuring the latter effect in essence, because you have hard no's of people who vote against any tax measure, say baseline of 25%-ish, right? But if I can't articulate to the county as a whole what they're getting for something, and people are saying, there isn't an excitement factor that it's actually going to produce something, which the lower dollar number, I would argue, probably does not provide any level of excitement to actually provide anything. I would just be concerned about then how soft even those numbers are as well. So that's the fine line that I'm trying to make here on that thing. Recognizing where Capitola is in a unique situation, Jamie, please don't panic here. But that's where I'm really pressing you on what was within the numbers, because if I went to somebody and I said, well, if you knew that I could basically replace 3 of the chairs for $44, or I could put on a new roof and do all the chairs in a new collection for $59, does that change your mind? There's a component of someone's willingness to work for something versus not, versus why I'm trying to not increase opposition to something. I would argue that you would actually lose a lot of the pro-excitement by going the other way. That's where my concern is. I didn't see where that break number was within what you have.
Well, I think that everything is correct as long as the message is get out. That's the key. People have to know all that. So that means that there's got to be a good campaign in favor of whatever goes on the ballot to make sure that all the voters, when they mail it in or go to the voting booth, they know what they're voting for.
Yes. Reading the numbers, it seems that there's really no variable that changes anything more than 5 or 6%. I actually wanted to ask, what is the percentage of the electorate that is that permanent no vote? Is that 25%? If it is 25%, are we basically arguing about 8% of the electorate? So we have to get over that floor to do this? And in your experience, how does it work?
General rule of thumb is 20 to 25% in most communities. But every once in a while you find something that does better than that.
Well, in this community
I
specifically.
think that's generally pretty much where it is. But I would caution against say you're arguing only over 8 or 10% because you're arguing over 8 or 10%.
Right.
that's what you're arguing, and that's what you're going after. And what's the best way to make sure you get those people who would like to support something and have to be convinced that this is not too much of a tax credit.
And I'm sorry. Have you seen the sort of price sensitivity to afford a $10 parcel tax difference in other measures in our county? I mean, it seems like we're really slicing this really fine.
Yeah.
And, $5, really? You're the pollster, right?
I have seen it. I can't remember if offhand I've seen it in the county. This county here particularly, we've been that tight on things.
You did on the parks measure. The sensitivity was between $8 and $13, which is literally $5, right?
Oh, right.
And the number was so significant that we went for $8. That's a year. That's not even so it's not based on the assessed values. So just whether you give $8 a year for parks or $13 a year for parks. It was 8.60, I can't remember what I remember. But I mean, we went with 8 and change, and this was last year.
Bruce, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, we have a sales job to do, but we have a great product to sell to. I believe we should go ahead with something. And I'm inclined to go ahead with something that will deliver what we've been negotiating amongst ourselves for so long. If we're going to do it, let's go forward and do the sales job that we need to do. One other question, at Cabrillo College, they're going to put on a $100 million bond measure, I think in June, and then there's going to be a half-cent sales tax in November of next year. I don't know what impact that will have, but Cabrillo is that big of a I know it's always been popular, and rightly so, but they had 71, 72. Is that right? So, I think that's what it was.
And they only need 55%.
Yeah. And what impact might that have?
I mean, the odds of them getting there 55% are pretty good. I can close that without in the fall. As far as the impact on the libraries, education, higher education is a less of an impact than K-12 education would have. And if you were up against a whole bunch of school districts at the same time, that would be more problematical, I guess. Because libraries are an adjunct to education, more so to K-12 education than to community college education. So it plays more into that. And that's always a cornerstone of the campaign. So some of the arguments are effective because of the effect and the impact that it has on education for kids. That's one of the big things you got going for you. As far as the half-cent sales tax that's going to probably on the ballot for roads, I mean, I have not seen the polling or anything that they've done. I know from years ago doing stuff. I would. Are they going to need 2/3 also, or just 50%? It's 2/3. 2/3. I would give your odds a lot better than theirs. Just in general.
Well, before I open this up to the public, any further questions of me?
Questions or comments?
No, question, we'll come into discussion at another stage. Anyone of the public who would like to address this joint study session on this subject? Anyone? Bruce?
Thanks. I'm Bruce Holloway from Boulder Creek. First of all, about Capitola. Capitola's agreement with the county has already been revised twice, and the time has been extended. So I don't really see that there's a problem here. If I recall correctly, Susan said a few months ago that the county would extend the agreement. There isn't a hard deadline there as far as Capitola breaking ground or whatever the requirement is. But I have another question, and that how did the results vary between different jurisdictions? Is there a jurisdiction where if we left that jurisdiction out, we could get closer to 70%?
Well, the one that was the least positive was a Scotts Valley area, and then of course it Felton and Norman was a little lower too. Of course, part of the money was in the library for Felton. It's hard to leave that. That would be one of the areas. If that were a way to do it,
Thank you. Anything further from the public? We'll bring it back for discussion. Before we bring it back for discussion, because several lawyers have disagreed about this, it warrants mentioning that there should be no motions or seconds or decisions by either body at this meeting. It should be taken back to the regular meetings of those bodies. So that being said, it's open for discussion. Cynthia.
Well, getting back to my era of magical thinking, I'm generally pretty cautious and have great respect for Gene's work and advice over the years. My instinct at this point is that we have been agonizing over this for 2 years now, and not a whole lot of movement. As I look at these results, there's a significant percentage that has no opinion on the overall rating or the need. And I think, as someone mentioned, that's where I think Gene, you mentioned, and Bruce, where a really aggressive education campaign can lay the groundwork for that. And I think about some of the revenue measures we've done in the city that did involve basically a good 6 months of pretty heavy-duty education, preparing the groundwork, not on the campaign, but on the issue. So I see a lot of potential to challenge that no opinion section. As others have mentioned, there's not a great difference when you look across the amounts. And my concern, and it's just political gut, is unless we settle on an amount that honestly gives every branch, every jurisdiction a straight-faced realization of their needs, there is not going to be that all-in enthusiasm that we need for a successful campaign. And I think we're going to need the all-in for any campaign, even the lowest amount, even lower than what we've tested on. And if there's just a lukewarm feeling about it, it's kind of, I'm going to say, swimming upstream, seriously, from the very beginning. So I really tend towards the feeling that all the jurisdictions have to get what they need for facilities, and that we just go for an aggressive, ambitious campaign where a real case can be made in every jurisdiction for every branch. And that will, I believe, coupled with a very strong education campaign, give the kind of energy and enthusiasm that will lead to a successful campaign. I have concerns about a halfway effort.
I guess I would offer counterpoint. I feel that we have a professional pollster here. We've polled this question multiple times. It seems pretty clear to me that we need to be under $50 for one of the ballots. My concern is that putting something on the ballot on that we hope will pass, and we're counting on moving the dial pretty significantly beyond what Gene would recommend, is potentially possibility of failure. And the possibility of failure to me is the worst alternative. It's worse than not putting something on. I think then you end up describing a story, the electorate, and to this library system of not succeeding with these things, and it precludes future measures down the road or potentially makes it more challenging. And so I guess I would push back a little bit and argue that 20% less than the numbers we've talked about. I think I would suggest we all go back and we take a hard pencil and take a look at it. And I appreciate the notion of not being very excited about it, but I guess I would look at this facility and get $6 million for this facility once be done. And I think that this could be a pretty wonderful place with $6 million. Is it what we want with $8 million? Probably not. But the notion of being able to get something in the near term, this is what the electorate's going to bear. We've seen that now in multiple polls. Over time, the longer we wait, the more our purchasing power declines, cost escalation, and to be able to deliver real positive improvements to our library and not run the risk of putting something out there that fails and ultimately jeopardizes the system or funding in the long term is something that concerns me. So I guess I would ask everybody to think about really what it would mean to be 20% lower than we talked about in the past, what they could get done, and they get excited about it.
John, did you see?
Well, to tie on to one of my city managers that I represent over there, I mean, you live in a policy ideal world. That's not the reality of the political world, right? I mean, this is not, the truth here is that it's a hope to pass any of them. I mean, the numbers are soft even at 49, 44. Where's the constituency? Where's the campaign group? Where's the support of the city councils? Where's the support? They don't exist. I mean, at a lower number, I've heard from Steve, I've heard from my fellow board members, heard from basically everybody but Capitola. They're not going to support it. Or they're not going to, well, actually, they might not support it, quite frankly. So my concern with that's true from a purist policy perspective. But I think that we have a reality here that we have to ask our community, what level of library services do you want? These are the needs. These are our hopes, these are our dreams, and you're the ones that are responsible along with us to fund it, and we have to put it forward to them with a certain amount. I think that the only way, though, that you get the infrastructure on a countywide campaign, which is very difficult to pass things countywide here, historically, actually, is if you get all these jurisdictions to buy in, and I don't think you do with the 20% component. I think that what the poll is asking is just a point in time, would you support a $49, would you support a $59? It's not looking at the reality of on the ground from that point on what a political campaign looks like in a pro and con. It's not presupposing whether there will be an actual organized opposition to it. It's not presupposing whether there'd be an enthusiastic electorate behind it the other way. Those are the things that all the poll does is give you the idea of whether or not you can even try something. Then moving beyond that is the actual political or campaign world that I would at least submit that the electeds on the board are probably a little bit more in tune to than not, right? And so I think that's, I just think that there's a reality that it would be hard for people within my jurisdiction, and I'm asking them to vote for things that are outside of the jurisdiction, to see a system as a whole, to go to LaSalle and go to Aptos and say, and I think it's going to play out. My book in the city of Santa Cruz the exact same way. Do you want to be the minimum daily allowance, or do you want us to actually take a shot at moving the libraries into the future? Because if you just want, I don't think that this community's ever been about, let's just do the minimum, let's just do the baseline. They always are about trying to push things to the future. I think that's a much easier thing to try and communicate to the electorate because it's the reality than just playing it safe. And I actually really don't think we have a choice. I really don't. We have to take the shot, or it's just not. We're just not going to have the background support for it. But we can talk about that when you buy me a lunch.
It's all about the free lunch.
Well, if it's below the Form 700 amount, okay.
It's not going to be a
So obviously the electeds on this board would be more attuned to this than necessarily I would, but I think Zach makes a really strong point that from what we've seen over, at least the time I've been on board and what I understand before, something in the $35, $40 range is just not, it's not going to get there with the jurisdictions. It's just not. I don't see it getting there. And so, for me, I would be inclined to support it going for, what we discussed last week at our meeting. Obviously there's still some more math to be done and some details to be worked out, but it's hard for me to see going back particularly to the place that I live and saying, well, what can we do? Can we use some old screws there instead of using new screws, right? Can we put, some books in a pile instead of doing this thing we want to do? I just don't think that would work for us.
I have a couple of questions for you, Gene. First of all, the reasons most likely to oppose the measure, were those only asked of the definite no's, or is that everyone across the board, if you were to oppose it, why would you oppose it?
No, I'm trying to get a flavor. Everybody got to ask every question.
Okay.
Except when you got to the vote test, if you said yes, you didn't get asked the lower amount.
Got it.
And those are
So the reasons more likely to oppose went to the people who would even definitely say yes?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Is trying to assess what argument's going to move you.
Correct. I just wanted to...
And of course, we get the no voters reacting much more positively to the arguments opposed, and we get voters reacting.
Good. Now, to initial votes in the partial tax measure, I'm seeing with no tax rate mentioned, the yeses are at 63%.
Yeah, that's...
Which is only 1 point above the $59 tax rate. And I'm questioning, do you think people were actually convinced when the tax rate went below 50, or did they just like it?
Actually, that's the question that worries me the most in the whole poll.
Yeah, this question...
The fact that we only got 63% and no specific tax rate.
Right, this one doesn't make any sense to me. I thought that was really?
Right, but then there's an assumption from a lot of people that the tax rate's going to be too high when I go to take a look at it.
But there's a higher undecided, so
Yeah, that's what it.
So
yeah, but they're not. The inclination is not to say, oh, I'll increase my taxes for others. See, there's a group, that small group that we're looking at, to say, I like libraries, but how much impact do really ask them to no opinion is things, et cetera.
Right.
Right now, I would have hoped that at least some of that 7 difference before the 7 would have actually been yes on the first question.
Right.
That's what I was hoping to get.
I can see that.
And if I've gotten other things when we asked the question this way. But it didn't happen yet.
And, okay, please.
Well, that number, that 14% no opinion on that first question, that number is just that same basic percentage of people that have no opinion on the need or no opinion on the job rating. So that's your opportunity. That's the forward education and for a strong campaign.
Maybe 2/3.
That's the one. Yeah.
And to Jamie's point, in many cases, I would agree with you. It was kind of where I walked into this meeting on, until I got until Gene a little further into it. And yet, at 20% less, if you were just remodeling this facility, it would make a big difference. But we're not talking about a lot of putty and paint at the branches. We're talking about significant remodels that would change in flavor completely.
You are currently the only person in this conference.
I'm the only person in my head. Just
This is all figured in your imagination.
it's all about me. Okay. So, to Zach's point as well, if you're going to remodel a facility, that's one thing. If you're going to build a facility, when you hit it 20%, you've built a different facility, significantly different. And when we're talking to the people in Aptos, we're saying we're not just going to paint and put new bookshelves in. We are going to expand your experience here. That's not a 20%. That's saying go for the $59 and work hard, where it really becomes a campaign. And it's ours to lose. And Martha, what did I just say that prompted you to?
Well, we've been at this for 2 years, and it's been hard. And it's only now we're finally coming to where the jurisdictions can hopefully come to some agreement about some very exciting projects. We've all treated this as a problem, and maybe now's the time it should be an opportunity. And, with all due respect, Gene, I do appreciate your insights, but none of us have been real excited yet because there's been a lot of, this has been hard. And maybe it's time that, we come together and say, wow, this is really going to be great. And go for that hire.
I think a lot of the indecision has had less to do with the voters and more to do with our meetings and what has gone on inside of them.
Yes.
So I can get past that. And how come when people say they have all the respect for you, you tense up, Gene, because you know it's coming. One just comment, I'm concerned with the second slide, or the first slide really, where it talks about overall job ratings for Santa Cruz libraries, and I'm hoping that dwindling number from 9 to 13 to 20 to 15 isn't an indicator of lack of care, or I don't go to the library anyway, so I have no opinion about it. I hope that's not the case. But finally, Gene, I'm looking at these polls as we go through the years. We have a nice sampling here of 4 years. And I'm looking at finally, after December 2014, a slight trend upward that we may see us hit a crest in June. So this could be an indicator that we're moving in a positive direction.
So in chart 1?
Chart 1, yeah.
Or even chart 2.
The fact that we are moving in a positive direction, and it's an indicator of where the economy is going in general, and people recognizing it.
On the other hand, statistically speaking, forget August 2015, it's in April 2014, the 2014 and 2015 study, those are statistically identical. At 76, 72, 77, that's no change. Among us three. It's a very good place to be. Those are terrific numbers. there are the state legislatures who show for that. Or the Congress, but that's, yeah, most anybody. Except of course, the electeds at the state will easily have that numbers themselves.
Well, they love us. They love us. Tiffany?
You were testing slightly different voter profiles in some.
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
How so?
One of them was for a special election, so that was a super frequent voters.
Right.
Different. But it's interesting that they don't vary significantly.
It's looking pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Further comments? Zach?
I'd just like to hear more from the administrator since, other than Jamie, I don't hear a lot. And it's important to hear what the LFA, Steve, has been silent, Jean, Carlos. I mean, it's important for me to not be making these statements and just have you go back to the city council in Scotts Valley and say, we got this shit out. This is the, so I need to know where your team stands and to have us have an understanding of what you think of this too.
Well, I was hoping that I was making some progress with my council and when we were talking about the higher numbers, but now we're talking about lower numbers and my fear is, we had a lot of discussion on the higher number and to start all over again, with a lower number, okay, now this is really only the amount that we have to, and we're going to go through this, large discussion again, and it's going to push this time out that, yeah, maybe we can still make the timeline, to get it on for June, but does that leave enough time to do a decent campaign though? We cutting ourselves short on the campaign and, doing that, so, I mean, I should be talking, but, I'm just worried about that. Because part of the problem is, trying to get consensus on how the distribution is, so that's my worry.
Well, that's
starting all over again.
I appreciate that input because it speaks to what my instinct was, which is that without the higher number, I don't hit Scotts Valley. I probably lose Santa Cruz and I lose at least one of my colleagues on the board. So I think that's because we've had 2 years of discussions with your colleague, my colleagues that have more conversations with your colleagues. So I think that your sense was that that there was more favorable if we could get to that higher number. Do you think you could?
I think we were moving, I was getting there, but now, even at the 49, when we were thinking we were going to get close to 60,000 now, or 60 million now, it's, 55 or less.
Yeah.
And we're having to go even higher, which, just to get back to where we were before, the money.
Okay.
Kind of problematic.
Martin?
I agree that it would be difficult to sort of go back and try to something else. For quite a while, trying to get there would be the best thing to do. I was also thinking there might be an opportunity to look at the numbers again in terms of, I know we spent some amount of time insofar as how we apply it to commercial, industrial. I think it'd probably be worthwhile to sort of delve into that a little bit more to see what the multipliers that we kind of came up with, whether there's some room there to adjust those. So I'd have to look at that to see if we can extract maybe some more revenue from the measure. I know it's been going down because of some of the data, but maybe if we go back and look at some of the multipliers, for example, that might allow for an opportunity to get closer to where we want to be. So I think it's worthwhile spending some time on that in addition.
And with regard to Capitola, there's really, the timeline does not worry us. We can work with that because we can begin planning and technically meet the deadline that the county's given us.
Looking at the poll, if you look at the definitely no, it's pretty consistent across all the different amounts. It's right around 18%. And if you look at the definitely yes, also consistent. So what's in play is the probablys and the unknowns, and that's almost 40%. Well, that's right around 40%. And so to me, this is a campaign of an education effort, and I think given the lack of big discrepancies between the different amounts, it makes sense to go for the higher amount. I think that this all comes down to the campaign. And my experience in Watsonville, which I think everybody would agree is a difficult environment for a tax measure, and we did a number of sales tax measures, and we never saw a poll we liked. There was never a great poll. It all came down to, and we passed a number of sales taxes, 2 sales taxes. 2/3, and it all came down to the campaign. It all came down to getting everybody on board in a strong and enthusiastic way. So I would push getting everybody excited, getting everybody on board, going for the higher amount rather than going for a lower amount and having people unenthusiastic. It's going to be a hard campaign in any event. I think more than likely we'll be going up against Cabrillo. And so then, and you know, Cabrillo is a very strong entity in terms of the and so we need to get our voice heard is going to be difficult. But I think if you have a lot of really enthusiastic people behind that campaign, we have a shot at it, a good shot at it.
No, that's not going.
Yeah.
And if we're going to go for a measure, why not go for something that gets everyone excited and go all the way? We're going to have to, it's hard work, it's going to be hard to work one way or the other. Why, really get out there if we're not going to give something that is truly amazing and brings ourselves forward to the next century?
I agree. I think for the last statement you made, I think the last 2 years we've had kind of double infighting about who gets how much, and there's been some real differences in opinion on that. And I think finally we came to some agreement, and it's based on $59 issue that, or figure, that if we're going to do this, like I said before, I think we should do it to deliver what we say we're going to do, because we're not going to get close if we cut it 20%. And these needs are here, we just have to show people that are real and that we are enthusiastically supportive of.
Anything further? Then we will adjourn this meeting.
I do have, when do you think we'll get an idea of better yields from the different amounts?
I think MBS is supposed to be working on the model and coming back at the next LFFA meeting with some additional information. So that would be on the Monday, November 9th meeting.
Any way that can happen by November 2nd? Please get an indicator so we can have it at our LPD.
I think Marcus felt like November 9th was even aggressive, but I can check with him. Yeah.
Really?
Right. I think November 9th was the very earliest we thought they could produce anything.
So, I talked to Marcus about this morning, and he said MBS will be able to confirm a modeling hopefully by November 2nd, and we can report out. So that's he said hopeful. Yeah.
Okay.
That was from this morning, now whether...
Even if it's not to the penny, it would be nice to look at, because I think what we're looking at is 59 versus 49, and that should be very easy to give some gross amounts. Once again, anything further? Then I will once again adjourn the meeting. Library Joint Powers Board, November 2nd. Downtown Branch Library, 6:30 p.m. LFFA, November 9th, 9 a.m. Downtown Branch Library. Thank you all for showing interest in our libraries.